welcome to our live stream where we're going to be doing some live critiques. Normally we would do this on Saturday, but some things kind of didn't go according to plan as they always do, so we're doing them here today on Sunday. So if you guys want to get in on the live critiques today or next weekend, all you have to do is shoot me an email to follygon@gmail.com, include your ZTool file. So go up here to Tool, Save As. Don't send a ZPR or a ZBrush project. So ZTool, include your name so I know who you are, and then just a little bit of info about the file. And we'll either do that today if you come in and join us here early enough, and you can shoot me an email in the middle of the stream, or we'll take a look, like I said, next weekend, which it will be back on Saturday next weekend. Like I said, some things unaccording to plan, of course. Things always come up, but yeah, we'll take care of it today and get as much done as we can. I've already got more than a few files here already loaded in from a few different people, and I will read those messages here in just a moment. So we got, let's see, I think we got just a bust here. I was loading in a few of these right before we started. I think this is supposed to be the Punisher here. And what's this one? This was some kind of like tank dude. I don't exactly remember what the name of the character was. I think it says it here. Or Jon Snow. I don't think this is supposed to be Jon Snow though. I think there was a Jon Snow. I think this is Jon Snow. I think these names were mixed up. Tank Hunter. So this is the Tank Hunter. Obviously, that was not Jon Snow. This one's Jon Snow. And is it this one here? Yes, okay. The Rockstar. Alright, so a few of these were sent in by the same person, and we'll take a look at what we can, depending on if people send in some files here while we're sculpting away. We can take a look at some other stuff as well. And this guy's just my own, so if we end up with, or we don't have enough stuff to look at for today for our live critiques, I'll jump back on him. So let's take a look at this one here first, since this was the first one sent to me. Let me grab my email here. This is from Francisco, who joins us frequently on the live streams here. Francisco says, "Hey, Follygon, would be glad if you could take some of your time on your live critique on this head. I used a reference, but I'm not following it 100%. There are some aspects that I really like on it, like the jaw, and in my opinion, that's the biggest flaw in my head. I don't really think it looks right, but I'm not sure how to make the jaw right, so if you could focus on that, I would really appreciate it. Also sharing the reference, very popular, would like to use it as well on the live critique. Also feel free to ignore the neck and ears." So ignore the neck and ears. Alright, well we can absolutely do that. So let's just grab our neck and grab our ears and split those off so we don't have to look at them anymore. We'll just kind of look at the actual head here. I'm also going to split off those eyes that you have there, for now at least. They look a little bit too sunk in, but we'll talk about all that as well. So Francisco, the reference that Francisco sent in here, this is the reference to which Francisco is referring. Let's scale this down a little bit, and we'll just plop him up here. And let me open up my chat back up here. Kaiwan Lupus, what's going on? Welcome to the stream. How you doing? Alright. So if you guys are just joining us for the first time, welcome to the stream, guys. We're doing some critiques on some models that were sent in. If you guys want to get your own stuff critiqued, you can feel free to shoot it in for this weekend or possibly another weekend in the future. It's just follygon@gmail.com, and you can send in your ZTool files and we'll take a look at them during the stream. So this one here, sent in by Francisco, he was saying that he used this reference up in the top left-hand corner. He said, ignore the neck and ears, and mainly he's concerned about the jaw. I think the jaw is probably the first thing that I noticed as well on this guy. But there's definitely a few other areas that I think with, a a very small amount of work, you could definitely, take these to the next level without too much effort. So, the first thing I'm going to do, taking a look at this, we're at 250,000 polys here, so it's just a little bit, too high resolution for me to manipulate too easily. So I am going to just drop this down really low to a very low subdivision level. Let's see what that looks like. I'm dropping it, make sure I have symmetry on, I didn't check. I'm going to drop it down to about 5K, around there. So we're at like 4 right now. And here, let's take a step back. Here. Duplicate. And I'm going to save your head, the original head, so that we can kind of compare after we're done. Alright, so I just remeshed this. Let's take a look at our reference and a few things that we want to keep in mind. So I don't have perspective on. I'm going to be kind of toggling that on and off as I go. I don't know if you were working with it on, Francisco, or not. But the first thing in the jaw that really stands out to me is not only the jaw, but let's just talk about the sides of the head and the planes of the head. So if we're going to take a look at this, and if we're going to take a look at some real human characters, the silhouette here, and I'm not sure, I think maybe where you went wrong in some of these areas is just interpreting some of the light here on the side of the head, which is making you think that the side of the head is inflated quite a bit more than it actually is. Try to look up a lot more reference if you're struggling to figure out a certain area. For instance, for the head actually gets a little bit wider as it goes back. This middle area here that you have kind of swooping out like this, the head doesn't exactly do that. So what we want to do is trim back this kind of temporal area quite a bit. And another thing that I would probably do is bring in let's see, I would probably just kind of scale in all of this a little bit, more so the back of the head. It might just be that the neck is missing here, so it's kind of playing with my proportions mentally. Before we get to the profile, let's just continue looking at the front side though. So the jaw you mentioned being the main thing that's really kind of bothering you and you don't know what to do there. So I think the main thing that you just need to do is get rid of this super strong, if we just kind of follow this silhouette line, we're getting this really deep concavity right through here. And I would really like to just pull that out quite a bit. So I'm just going to use my move brush and start adding some more volume in here. And I think you can see that we're already starting to match the reference with just a couple brush strokes there a lot more accurately. Definitely be turning your model around, looking at it from as many different angles as you possibly can. I really do think that'll help you out a lot. Let's just very quickly go to the profile and try to handle as much of this as quickly as we can. Looking at the profile, your forehead's very flat. There's also some more flatness in your face that we can maybe look at. Well, let's start with just the forehead, so kind of following this line back. I would definitely want to see a little bit more of some curve around here. You had this kind of just all straight up and down. So let's start there. Maybe if you want to define this plane a little bit more, you could do a quick pinch through there. Maybe around the brow as well if you wanted to figure out that area a little bit as well. And then let's just make sure that we're getting some proper wrap through here. And I'm only going to use the reference that you provided, Francisco, but again, I do highly recommend that if you're trying to figure out something, like if you don't have a really good top-down view or bottom-up view and you're trying to figure out some of this stuff, definitely grab as many references as you can. And it might be a little bit hard when you're working on something like this, since all the references that you find aren't going to be exactly the same. But that's what I would encourage you to do. So I'm just going around noticing some areas where you have some kind of weird, super strong transitions that don't really need to be there. I think a lot of this can just be toned back and brought a little bit closer to what I'm seeing here. Also, another thing that you can do is grab your reference after you import it into ZBrush and lower your opacity. And a great way to kind of just check references or check proportions and stuff is to line that up. And you can see now that I've kind of brought the back of the head in, just kind of mentally, we're just kind of doing it by eye. A lot of this is starting to feel a lot closer. Another thing that I was saying is that the face is a little bit flat and that the eyes were feeling really sunken into me. So I think those are the next two kind of major things that I would do. So let's just kind of, we'll continue to do this by eye. I'm not going to sit here and line this up every 2 seconds. So typically in the profile of the face, a lot of what you see is kind of this big triangle. Obviously it's more complex than that. There's a lot more complexities in this silhouette. But down here, coming down from the nose to the chin, you definitely want to see a little bit of an angle here. So let's kind of angle this back a little bit, make sure that we're getting some nice wrap around our mouth, which it looks like you actually do have pretty well here. So I think I'm fairly happy with that. Let's see here. Let's just see how some of this is lining up. And you mentioned ignore the neck and ears, but just to kind of keep this consistent, I want that neck going in there, and some other things that I would do very quickly here to make this, you know, fit a little bit better towards what we're building. I would probably merge this together at some point here and start blending a good portion of this together between the head and the neck. What's going on, Pelmy? Sorry, I didn't see your message there. How you doing? How's your weekend going? We don't normally stream on Sundays, but you know, stuff happens, so here we are. Normally we'd do this on Saturday, and we'll be back next Saturday as well with some more critiques. But we're looking at a model by that Francisco sent in. Kind of the main area that we're kind of focusing on right now, more so in here. Another thing that I would do is come on through here and really work on this transitional area between the nose. You have this kind of nice curve running through here. Not that the curve looks bad, but it's not accurate. We definitely want more of, you know, coming down to the nose and then out to the lip, more so like that. So let's do some things to kind of like pinch in here and play with some of the shapes going on in our nose. I'll just kind of push and pull around. Ariel, what's going on? Volume is, oh, that's right. 1 second. Thank you. Where is it? There we go. All right, can you guys hear me all right? Thank you so much for letting me know. Appreciate it. Totally forgot to turn that back up. I was doing some recording earlier. All right. Sorry about that, guys. So probably up to this point, you haven't heard a single word that I've said, which is fine. So Francisco, a few of the things that we looked at. This is Francisco's model. Francisco was telling us that he wanted us to take a look at his head, just to kind of flip back and forth from where we were. We started off with this, and we've just started making some kind of major proportional changes here, starting to get closer to the reference that Francisco provided. And yeah, it's Critique Sunday. We're doing live stream critiques, and normally we do these on Saturdays, but as I was saying before when you couldn't hear me, these things, some things didn't really work out this week, so we're switching it up. We'll be back next Saturday. If you do want to get some stuff in here for this critique, though, you can send it over to me at follygon@gmail.com. We have a bunch of stuff here that we're going to be looking at. A few things from the same person. So depending on if somebody else sends something in, we can kind of mix up the order here a little bit. But some of the main changes that we have made thus far to fit the concept a little bit, we're just kind of going off of just referencing it by eye. I lined it up once there just to show how much better just from the profile a lot of that stuff was fitting. But we pulled in the back of the head, we shaped up the forehead, The front there got a little bit more curve. Mainly just a lot of stuff was feeling very flat here in the face. So we're starting to get some more of the typical angles that we would see there. A lot more, the main problem that Francisco was having was with his jaw, he mentioned. So just a quick little pull out there to get that feeling a little bit more accurate, get that feeling a lot closer to what I'm seeing in the reference over here. Other than that, it's really just some big changes. We're kind of focusing in here on the nose a little bit as well. But mainly just some quick big changes to proportions, and I think this will be headed in a lot better direction. Other than that, you know, I think there's not too much else to say, mainly because you have to get the big stuff right before you can start focusing on some of the medium and smaller details. So I would say, Francisco, focus in on a few of these big changes that I've already made, and I think you'll be headed in the right direction. The other thing I was noticing from the profile is that the area around the eyes feels very sunken in. It feels very shallow, or I'm sorry, it feels very deep. It needs to be much more shallow. So I would probably just, you know, maybe even trim this up with the trim dynamic brush. Start pushing in around some of this area, get that to line up a little bit better. And let's see here, just kind of play with some of the volumes here. And you've done the eyes in a pretty similar way to how I like sculpting them. Keeping them kind of split off and separated can be very helpful. I think there's quite a few things that need to happen in here around the eyes though before these start feeling a lot better. Mainly working on, let's see, some of these transitions between the zygomatic, just flowing up into the cheekbone area. You might want to, on here, let's see, probably some stuff with the shape I would do here just to get these feeling a little bit more, a little bit tighter. Feel very, very soft, very rounded, too rounded for sure. But also, the thing that's really, I think, throwing me off with this shape is the how the eyelid is hitting the eyeball there. So what I would probably recommend, Francisco, is coming in here with some inflate and deflating around here. Whoops. Starting to get some of that edge to turn once it starts hitting that eyeball, just so it starts to feel like it's kind of more connected through there. And then, like I said, maybe some more pinching around here, trying to get some of this to flow a little bit better. There's a lot that needs to change here. Shape of the brow, probably just, you know, pay attention to some of the angles that are happening in here. Some of the volumes. Don't get too caught up on the small stuff at this stage. Just focus on these big things. And if you're having trouble, like I said, you know, line it back up, turn down the opacity on your image. Maybe take some screenshots, throw it in Photoshop, compare from there. Let's see. I'm gonna duplicate the neck that you have and merge that together and just Dynamesh this, because the neck really informs the shape of the head. It's often very nice to get some of this, you know, flowing together. It'll take some time to do that. Take some time to drink this tea as well before it gets cold. But really, I think that's the major thing. Just kind of check that silhouette, make a few changes, grab a big move brush, drop your resolution down a lot lower. And really, in not much time at all, we've kind of progressed quite a bit on this, I think. You can see here in the profile of our face, there's even more of an angle here. Once you define those lips a bit more, this area will make a little bit more sense. That upper lip should always be hanging out further than the lower lip. There's definitely some kind of plane change going on for our chin. Oftentimes I will sculpt the chin and lower lip at the same time because these shapes are all kind of interconnected through here. So typically this all kind of happens simultaneously. Let's see. And probably a little bit too much depth there on the mouth. But again, before you start getting in here and defining the nose, the eyes, the mouth, definitely focus in quite a bit on these big head shapes. Big head mode, right? Let's come through here and just make sure that this is all blending. And I'm just using a big old clay tubes brush. Flow nice and neat through there. Nice and clean, right? Which we're not too concerned about at this stage. Just gotta get some things shaped up correctly. And again, you had quite a bit of volume here on the sides of your face. If we look at that transition here, you got way too much coming out, and then you have way too much coming in on the jaw. Alright, so we could take quite a bit of time, you know, going through here and starting to redefine all these shapes, but maybe we can revisit this one in a little bit. What's going on, Dill? Dill N. Maybe Dylan? I'm not sure. Welcome to the stream, and thank you for the follow. Critique Sundays also, that's right. Yeah, we didn't do the critiques yesterday, so we are doing them today. If you guys want to get something in, shoot it on over, follygon@gmail.com. And if not today, then next weekend, next Saturday. Only doing them today because I couldn't do it yesterday. Alright, we'll start to maybe clean up some of these transitional areas a little. For the most part, though, I'm not too worried about how messy this is getting. I would also, you know, make sure that I'm getting the appropriate volume here in the back of the neck. You got this really strong crease down through here. I would just kind of, you know, plane that out quite a bit more, clean it up. And there's probably quite a bit more volume here that you could get in, kind of flowing up through there. But other than that, you know, it's kind of hard to figure out a lot of that stuff when you're, you know, kind of just blocking in the head. So really, I guess my main advice is just focus on these big shape changes. Really try to take a step back. Maybe one thing you can do after this quick save is finished. Give that a second to think. One thing that you could probably do is just switch your color to black and check your silhouette and just see how that's reading. Compare it to what you're seeing here, and then make changes as you go. Whew, I feel a sneeze coming. Been wanting to send in something for critique, mostly 2D drawing, some anatomy. Well, I probably, you know, I'm not a 2D artist, but I would be happy to take a look at least. Probably not give a super in-depth critique on like line weight and stuff like that, but at least anatomically I can, you know, recognize information. Alright, so there's a lot going on in the eyes here that's wrong that we want to fix. I wouldn't say wrong, it's just, you know, it doesn't look super great. So we want to do quite a bit of cleanup through here. The main thing that I wanted to fix with our eyes, though, was just getting the depth to feel a lot closer. And I think we're, you know, we're kind of already there. The other thing that I would try to focus on here, and I've talked about eyelid order in my streams before. The first thing that should hit is that front lid, then the bottom, then inner corner, then outer corner, which you do have. I just feel like the discrepancy between the top eyelid and the bottom eyelid, that distance there was quite a bit too much. So I would probably change some proportional things here. You do have this 1, 2, 3 thing going on with your top lid, which is what I'm definitely seeing here. It's also very common in eyelids in general. So we just want to clean that shape up a little bit more. Let's see. I'm just gonna push and pull around here with my move brush. Another thing we want to look at is just the line here. I think you got that angle pretty good. Just some minor things here to clean up. Another thing that I recommend doing once you get to a point where you're feeling confident with your eyelids is to take your lower eyelid and merge that into your head. And after you do that, you'll be able to come through here and define some of this transition quite a bit better. There's, I think, just too much of an angle through a lot of this, and I would probably take a good amount of time through your eyes after you, of course, go through and fix all the changes in your head that need to occur. But the main internal kind of silhouette line that we're looking for in this area, and this is a very tough area to figure out a lot of the time, so definitely take some time to inspect what's going on here in your reference. But a lot of the time what I want to see is coming straight down, or roughly straight down from the eyelid, and then down and around, and then out your chin. So a lot of what that kind of depends on is the plane of the face here, which it looks like is pretty close to what I'm seeing happening in the reference there. But what I would probably do is kind of pull in and tighten up around that nasolabial fold transition that we're getting coming down to about the corner of the mouth. Make sure that that's kind of transitioning properly through there. Let's see here. And then start to build up your volume around your mouth. This is a tough area to do, so I would take some time with your lips as well, especially since they weren't super well defined. But after that, let's see. So we're starting to define those planes a little bit better through some of this area. That's great. Probably just take some more time doing some of that. And let's see here. From the front view, I think proportionally, I haven't looked at the front too much. Proportionally, I think your eyes could be just a little bit bigger. Maybe it's more so some stuff that I'm noticing here with the nose and just this area transition in general. So let's kind of like pull out around here, dip in these corners a little bit, and play around with this area some. Also, in the nose area, you have a little bit of that bump originally, but just not as much as what I'm seeing happening in the reference there. So we have a 1, 2, 3 transition. So from the tip of the nose up to the bridge of the nose, back to the corner for the transition into the brow. So if you want to tighten up that area, down into the corner of the eye a little bit, and then you can transition that and smooth that out if you need to, like a trim brush or something like that. And yeah. From here, it's just a matter of going through each and every kind of part of your face, spending maybe like 10 or 15 minutes on each, and starting to clean this stuff up and get it to that next level. Which is no easy feat. I think you have a really good start on some stuff here, but yeah, those are the few changes that I would make. So just to flip back and forth between those two really quick, here's kind of where we started. This is Francisco's reference up here, and in about 20 minutes or so, I think we have started to block out the face and get a little bit closer to our proportions. I'm also noticing, now that I'm flipping back and forth between those two, the other main thing that I would do, and let me just drop the poly count really low so I can show this really quick. I think this will be very important to make this feel like this is the correct shape over here. I am noticing, especially from the front view without perspective on, that the length of our head is a little bit too squashed. So I'll just use a move brush for now. That's fine. We'll just do this really quick. Probably come through here, lengthen some of this area. I would also increase the size of your eyes, eye socket, this whole area. And there's, many ways to go about doing that. I would probably just do it in Transpose Master and do some scaling. Play around with that. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen here, but it's all one step at a time. So try not to get too overwhelmed and, like I said, take it slow, one step at a time. It's not a race. And you will get there. You will get there eventually. I know I just kind of destroyed everything, but I wanted to be able to make a kind of big move here really quick. Start lengthening some of that area. And I think you will start heading in the right direction. Alright, cool. Cook and Milk, how's it going? And Becker, welcome guys. Welcome to the stream, as well as everybody else that's joining us. Looks like Malek. I'm not familiar with Malek. Who is Malek? Let's see. Is this, Rami Malek? This guy? He's got some, like, big lids. I don't know if that's who you're talking about. This is the first person that popped up. He's got some really swollen lower eyelids or something. But yeah, in a few quick changes, that's what I would recommend. We can maybe return to this and clean up some more if nobody sends in some more stuff for us to look at for the stream here, for our critique stream. But I say we move on to the next one and take a look. Milan Zivkovic, I'm sure I butchered this, but I'm gonna go with Mylan. No, I won't. I don't think it's Mylan. Mylan says, "Hi Ben, I'm sculpting designer toys as a hobby." Here, let's grab one of these. I'm sculpting designer toys as a hobby, and recently I started using ZBrush to make and 3D print toys and accessories. Twitch username is SuperheroHQ, or Supahero. So we'll wait for Supahero, or we won't wait. We never wait. But I mostly use Instagram right now, working on a Punisher character. That's who this is, I think. Maybe start with that one. Added more to Dropbox. You don't have to check them all. Thanks for the streams and for the feedback sessions. It helps a lot. Well, yeah, no problem, man. Well, let's get in here and take a look at our Punish boy, Mr. Robot Dude. Awesome, yeah. So that's who that guy was. I've never seen Mr. Robot. I have heard of it though. All you could do this week was hair, Cook and Milk. Yeah, you've been working on that for a while now. Now that I know that you are streaming, I will frequent your stream as much as I can. Well, yeah, no problem, Becker. I held that mug so awkwardly. I don't know why. All right. So this is from Supahero HQ. This is the Punisher. They also sent in a few more that we can maybe quickly look at depending on how much time we got. We got some tank dude here. We got Jon Snow, I think. Yeah, Jon Snow here. And then I think it's this one as well. The Rockstar, which I thought this one was really funny. This is good. Good stuff. I like it. All right, so let's start off with the Punisher. The first thing I'm going to do is just turn off the poly paint on all of this and take a look at what's going on. You did not provide any references with this, so Mostly the changes that I'm going to make are things that I see that look awkward or unfinished, or just some places where the form isn't really doing what I would expect it to do. Some places where some transitional areas look really awkward. I think the main thing that really stands out to me at first are the proportions on this guy. If we're, obviously this isn't, hyper realistic, but at the same time, his legs feel very, very short, unnaturally so. So I would want to probably pull those legs down to, maybe even about the length of the base there. So let's see here. What's the easiest way to do this? Let's just maybe hop into T-pose really quick. I also noticed on the boots, a couple notes I wanted to make over here was that these are all Dynameshed together. I'm not sure how you kind of made these, but they're pretty dirty, and if you wanted to make this for some kind of designer toy, you would definitely want this to be a lot cleaner, especially if it's something that you would want to sell or reproduce multiple times. So here along a lot of these ridges, there's quite a lot of things I would want to do to get rid of all this waviness that we see through here and how undefined these are. Depending on the size that you're going to be 3D printing this, another thing that you'll want to keep in mind is that little ridge distances like this and this, those probably aren't going to show up in your print very well just because they're so small. They obviously show up here in 3D, it's really easy for us to see them, but this distance here, even this big ridge, this big rig, we're talking about less than a millimeter here. Like this is nothing. That's barely going to come through. Another thing that you'll want to look out for on all of your stuff, this is just kind of general notes, is stuff like your shoelaces, anywhere where you have gaps. You're going to want to get rid of these big gaps. These gap areas are going to cause you a huge amount of pain and misfortune in the future. Gaps, anything, I don't know if you would ever plan on molding these, but even just for 3D printing, these are things that you would want to change. So you can either do what I did there, which is some kind of draft back, or unfortunately these are all merged together, so I can't very easily get through here and get the lace to kind of fit through there a little bit better. But those are all things that I would kind of keep in mind for your characters, since you're specifically talking about 3D printing. Francisco, you just missed it. Welcome to the stream. We were just taking a look at your model up here. We made quite a few changes, just to kind of reiterate for you really quick. Mainly some really large scale changes to get closer to the reference here, to get closer proportionally. So we're pulling out the jaw, fitting in that area. I can undo a few things just to go back to the more higher resolution here. So swapping back and forth between these two, I think a few things that you can do very quickly. Pull out your jaw, push in this area around the head. Make sure that the shape of your head is feeling more natural, kind of going all the way back there. Make sure that your silhouette shapes are feeling a lot better. There's definitely a lot of flatness going on here that you probably want to get rid of and get a little bit closer to what we're seeing more naturally in a face and more accurate to what I'm seeing in the reference. Same thing with the back of your head. There was, I think, maybe a little bit too much length kind of pulled out back here, so we kind of unified a little bit of this, got a little bit closer to where we would want to be for that jawline to hit in the middle of, about in the middle of the head, along with the ear. So, there might be even some more changes that you could make there proportionally. But those are the few things that I would look at. And this will be uploaded on my YouTube channel. So if you want to go back and check out the full critique, you can check that out. The beginning, unfortunately, I had my levels on my microphone turned down all the way, and I didn't realize it, which is my bad, because I was recording stuff the other day, and I forgot to change that back up. So the first 10 minutes of that is probably not, in terms of audio, you probably won't be able to hear what I said, but you'll be able to see what I did. All right. let's get back to the Punisher here. You're very welcome, Francisco. Thank you for sending in the model. It was a lot of fun to take a look at. And you know what? Depending on how much time here, we might even jump back on it for a little bit, unless somebody else sends something in for us to take a look at. Another general suggestion, test models in your slicer to see if the printer sees the model. Don't know if it's obvious or not. I'm not sure what you mean by to see if the slicing software will see the model. It should. I don't know what you mean. I don't know if you're talking about scale issues or what, but scaling is a little complicated in ZBrush, but thankfully there's a plugin that you can use that makes it a little bit easier. I don't like to use it though. To see the details, yes, I think that is a good suggestion. Or you can do like a little test print of, you know, a little area, a little section at the scale that you're going to print it at. See if that comes through. I can already tell in ZBrush, just without even measuring, let's say this thing was going to be a foot tall. I don't know how. Okay, this is like, okay, so this is great. He's about, you know, let's say 14 inches tall, right? This little detail down here, because he's, let's say if you printed this at 14 inches tall as a toy, which is huge, right? This is 1/100th of an inch. That gap is 1/100th of an inch, which means invisible, which means practically invisible. Yes, on the laces and small gaps. So that stuff would just, like, you know, almost be destroyed entirely. Let's see here. Confused. Should I watch your Android 17 video or watch the live stream? Says Jart Zoro. Well, it's totally up to you, I guess. Let's go into Transpose Master on this guy. What was that? Oh, I think there are some subtools in here that are unposed, maybe? Is that correct? Ah, okay, you just have some block out stuff in here. Some blocked out mannequins. I don't know if you made this, but I like a lot of the shapes that you have in here. I think I would have liked a lot more if you went further in this direction. I actually like that. But let's get back to our dude here. I guess that's just all hidden stuff. So as I mentioned, the first thing that I would do is just, you know, some large scale. We're gonna break some stuff here, but that's okay. Some large scale, oh, we got a body in here, which makes this even more difficult for posing. That's unfortunate, but we'll try to get through here really quick. Let's see here. Let me just grab our, here, we'll just grab our legs, all that. And like I said, I'm gonna break some stuff here, but that's okay. It's all for the better. So let's see here. Proportionally, as I mentioned, there's definitely some length that we want more so in the legs to make this feel a little bit more proportionally correct. He just feels very squashed right now with the legs that you have on him, or it feels like his chest and torso are way too big. If you're trying to go for that like cartoony, stylized, like big guy up top, which I have a mannequin of somewhere that I could maybe load in. If you're going to do that, I would say that you're too much in an awkward middle ground right now, and I would, you know, push that way further. So right now, this feels really awkward. If you want to make him like this big guy with tiny legs, make all this way bigger and keep the legs kind of where they are. But I think getting some distance there and some other stuff that I was kind of just noticing in the face here. Here, let's we'll just go back to subtools really quick. Hopefully that won't take too long. And we'll take a look at some other stuff that I was starting to notice. Actually, let's just work our way from the bottom up. I think that'll be for the best. And I'll notice what I can here. Give that 21 seconds. All right, cool. So let's start down here at the bottom. We got DD was here. Very nice here. I'll get in here as well. Let's see. We got some Folly. Folly was here as well. All right. We got some shells, some cool stuff going on here. You know, I won't comment too much on some of the stuff here. I think you've done a good job of modeling some of this. I would say that the only advice I would give is be careful with some of this stuff if you're going to be printing this. Other than that, I think a lot of the texture will come through. You might want to make some of the breakup areas that you have look a little bit less brush strokey. That's really the only one that looks, you know, super brush strokey. But really it just looks like there's maybe a couple areas here in the gaps that the geometry is exploding. So that's not going to be super helpful for 3D printing. I already gave the notes I wanted to do on the boots. I think the larger shape that you have here is really nice. Just kind of be careful with the detail stuff that you have. Onto the pants. Same kind of note here about the seams and stuff like this. A lot of this is just not going to come through on any of your prints. So make sure that you really kind of exaggerate a lot of that form. This kind of feels very awkward to me down here at the bottom of the pants. Like I said, I don't really have a reference for this, but a lot of these folds feel very unnatural. The pants are, you know, relatively smooth all the way down, and then you would just have like all this bunched up fabric here. It feels, you know, by itself, it feels very awkward. And then these folds down here that would be coming from the crotch region, kind of around here. Maybe look at some pants to figure out how these lines would flow a little bit more accurately. You would definitely see this more so coming from like the crotchal region. You know, kind of tightened up around this area a little bit more. You know, you might get some splaying out this way. But yes, definitely for sure, you know, follow the V shapes that you would see in your reference, but more so this way and less on the actual just flat part of the leg right here. Just because anatomically, you know, we got the main meat of the leg right here, the foreheads of the quadriceps, you know, flowing down here in this main shape. And if the pants are just sitting on top of that, there's really not going to be, you know, too many pantaloon fabrics that are going to fold right around that area, especially the way it looks like you have them conforming to the leg as tight as they do. Some other things that I would just pay attention to, this feels, from the side, from the profile, it feels pretty awkward in just the shape of the leg. The back of the leg is very fat and rounded as compared to the front, which should definitely have more of that volume there. The back of the leg, you know, you can round that out a little bit, but it just feels kind of awkward with that main volume that you have back there. From the front though, I think I definitely like this shape quite a bit, you know, getting that straights versus curves thing going on, you know, nice straight going here, nice volume on the outside. I think that works really well. I'll just try to bring that more into the silhouette. And then I think this is just your body that you have hidden underneath there. Here, let's we'll hide him. I think only your arms are visible here. All right. So that's my notes on the pantaloons. Let's see what you got going on here in the belt. It looks like it was poly modeled. Maybe in ZBrush even, I'm not sure. You got some creases and stuff set up in here. So I think there's some good stuff in here going on. I would say maybe around the waist, try to, you know, maybe flatten out some of this area. You got quite a lot of unevenness and warble going on through a lot of this. So maybe try to straighten this out and straighten out that waistband of the pants a little bit. And you don't have to make it, you know, I'm not saying make this perfectly straight up and down. More so what I'm saying is just kind of even out some of the, you know, looking at this curve, it's kind of all over the place. So I would just, you know, do some work to make that feel a little bit more concentric and even through there. And then similarly, kind of giving that treatment to the pants. All right, the vest. You got a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of complexity in terms of the larger shapes. I like what you got going on. It just looks like maybe back here, since I've moved this around a little bit, it's got a little out of touch. But also maybe you got a little bit too much kind of warble and some extra stuff going through here that you might want to take a look at. In terms of like secondary and medium shapes, I'm digging what you got going on. I think there's some cool stuff in here. Maybe add some stuff to make these straps feel a little bit more at home so they're not just kind of slapped on there. Maybe give them something that's actually clipping that there. It could be as simple as, you know, dropping a little sphere in here and then, hey, it's a button, right? Voila, you know, 2 seconds. Something as simple as that. Just to make those feel like they're not just floating there. And we got symmetry on all that too. In terms of tertiary forms, I think this stuff gets a little dirty through here. Oh, and this looks like it was poly-modeled, so maybe this was done intentionally. I think some of this stuff around the edges, I think you've done as some kind of like wear and tear, right? I think that feels a little unnatural, just for how evenly and how much you've done of this. I would say maybe try doing a little bit less, and maybe try you know, doing it a little bit more like what you've done here with these strong kind of indents. So keep a lot of this a little bit more clean, and then maybe come through and, you know, take, what do I have here? Let's grab a damn standard. Maybe come through and really, you know, add some of these tertiary details to exaggerate some of that form. For the most part, though, I think like how dirty a lot of this gets in here is just a little bit distracting, whereas if you had a little bit less, it would be a little bit more like eye-catching and essentially, you know, have you ever heard like if you put everything, like if you type everything in caps lock, you know, everything has the same level of importance. It's the same thing when sculpting. If you add all these high resolution details everywhere, well then nothing really catches the eye. It's all kind of just noise, and it's really hard to focus. Whereas if you put a few of these, you know, points like you've done with the bullet marks, I think it makes for it makes a bit more sense. Let's keep moving around. Gun, poly-modeled, looks like. Maybe dynameshed all together. I'm not sure how you made this. That looks like fun, though. You got some cool stuff going on there. I won't say too much about the gun. The hands, though. The hands could definitely use... Oh, he's got two guns in it. We got another gun down here. This was poly-modeled, or it looks like maybe a turbo squid model based on that polygon count and some of that information and all of that. You'll probably have a lot of trouble printing these guns, or at least this one in particular, just because of all the closed holes shenanigans going on here that aren't going to be a lot of fun to play with. I would say your hands could definitely use some work going through here, really cleaning up a lot of these forms. I think in general, you know, if you want some help with these, I have a video recently where I've gone through and sculpted some hands, so you might want to go through and check that out. It just looks like a lot of the planes here are kind of all over the place, a little undefined, and you know, you got some weird twists going on here, some extra weird volumes. Shape in this thumb feels very unfinished. It feels like there's definitely a lot of stuff that could be done here in the hands to get these to the next level. Similarly, I think the arms probably have those issues as well for what is visible. Just kind of gets a little bit too, you know, flat through some of this area. And the transition up around here, this feels like very rounded and unnatural. I would want to see quite a bit more of a you know, transitional area here for saying like this is the upper arm, and now we're on the back, and now we're on the lower arm. Whereas what you had before, I'm just going to turn off the body, whereas what you had before felt very kind of just rounded and not really defined super well. So let's get some more volume in here, kind of pull back through a lot of that area, all the way through there. And this one's not quite so bad over here, I think because you had less twisting going on. But let me turn that arm back on. I don't know where he went. Oh, well, that's my bad. We got a bunch of hidden stuff here. I think this is all the extra stuff hidden up top. Alright. So that side, I don't think that's nearly as bad, but I think you could maybe pull in some of these transitional areas quite a bit. Make this a little bit more defined through here. And then, hey, here's the elbow. Instead of feeling like we're just, looping around, it feels a lot more like, transition to the back, to the arm, and then 1, 2. All right. Same thing, up through here through the deltoid. It just feels like this arm is like offset awkwardly, so, you can still keep that volume. It just feels like here's the deltoid pointing down this way where it should be more so a little bit, pointing down the center of the arm. Maybe play with that. In terms of the face, we'll just go up here and we'll close it off with the face. Let me just hide all that junk. And I'm going to turn off our little bandage as well. The first thing that kind of caught my eye in the face was around here, around the nose area. Feels very flat and pushed in. So what I would like you to do is come through here and let's see. Just kind of pull this area out, make this face transition a little bit better, mainly down through here. The nose isn't too bad. I think there's some defining that could be done there, but the ears, eyes, and mouth are pretty bad. They could use a lot of work for sure. Mainly, let's just look at kind of some big shapes here in the face. In terms of the ears are huge, enormous. I would make that kind of follow the line of the jaw a little bit better. Also, some notes about the line of the jaw. This feels, very shallow in here. I think this is fine. If you want to go for this, this like really long face that you kind of have going on right now with this really short neck, which is what this guy feels like. Just based on this distance here and how long our face is. But the jawline feels, really kind of undefined, and I think it has the same problem that we were seeing in the arms with just feeling like it's, looping right on up, and it doesn't feel like it really defines where these, breaks in the shape should occur. So let's maybe do some of that here. And I'm going to break some stuff, but we're going to break some stuff to fix some stuff. Alright. I'm not sure what this volume you have going on here on the ear is. Not sure what you're going for there. But again, just kind of bring these ears in quite a bit. Silhouettes, not really correct. So definitely look at some references when you're working on this stuff. Clean up the back here into the transition of the face. In terms of distances back as well, that ear and jawline are just way too far back there. Definitely want to bring this stuff forward here, get that feeling a little bit closer to home, shape up the head a little bit better maybe. In terms of defining the eyes and mouth, this is a big dude and he's got really tiny lips. It just feels a little weird to me. I think you could definitely increase the proportional volume around the mouth. I think there's also, I'm not really digging these lips right now, so I think there's a lot of work that you could do here to get these to that next level. Also in big guys, typically, like I said, I don't have a reference for this, so I don't know what you're looking at. But in big guys, maybe we can like even look at the actor. I don't know who plays the Punisher in those older Punisher movies. But typically in bigger guys, you're gonna see like a lot more volume in the lower lip. And then that typically, again, carries down into the jaw. All these shapes from the lower lip flowing down into the jaw and the chin and everything else here, all this stuff kind of works together. So I would, maybe grab some reference on that. And let's just kind of fill in some of this stuff here real quick. Or break some stuff real quick. And let's see, kind of flow that down through there a little bit. Grab this chin. And mainly what I'm looking to do with all these changes is to get a little bit away from kind of that flat volume that we had there in the silhouette. We're starting to, toughen this guy's jawline up a little bit more. Get him feeling a little bit more like that big, strong Punisher boy that we want to see. Also, let's, pull in that lower lip a little bit underneath the top lip. Don't want that sticking out too far. But yeah, we could sit here and define these lips all day, but let's kind of move on here. Look at some more areas. For the eyes, there's definitely, a lot of shapes that we just aren't seeing in the eyes that we probably would. Kind of what we were doing with the last model, looking at eyelid order and stuff, just really isn't possible here since we only have kind of this cavity. I would say maybe just spend some time looking at some reference and clean up this area. I think there's a lot of work that can be done here, but I think you have a good base within the ear to get that done. And then maybe I would say kind of sharpen up some of the features around the face a little bit more. Big tough dude. Feels like he's very kind of soft and undefined in a lot of these areas. And the surface is just, I'm seeing like little pockmark areas kind of all over the place that I would probably want to go through here and in the brow. There's just some places that I would probably spend some time cleaning up and defining. I'm gonna ignore his eyebrows for a little. Whoops. Also, your tragus on your ear is not in the correct location. You want that, connected to the lower part of your ear. This isn't like a separate thing. That's part of your ear, so you'd probably want to... There's definitely a lot of things that need to happen in the ear here. You know what? I have a brush. Where is it? Just so you can see very quickly some of these shapes that we would like to see in comparison to what you have. Right, so bring it within more of that ear shape. You don't need to be hyper realistic with what you're sculpting. You can tunify this as much as you want, but you still want to keep that ear shape in there relatively, so it looks like an ear. Because right now this doesn't read as an ear. The only reason it reads as an ear is because it is on the side of the head. If I were to solo mode this and look at it by itself, we'll let the quick save finish. I would not immediately say, oh, ear. This is supposed to be an ear. Alright, so clean up that shape, round out that silhouette. Don't get that super strong dip in there. Feels really awkward here from from the front with this super strong concavity that you have going on in the silhouette. And then I think you'll be able to get that a little bit closer to home. Other than that, I think you do have some good stuff in here. There's some good hard surface stuff going on. I like it a lot. Turn this guy off. Got a bunch of other stuff that I think you can look at, but those are my notes on that guy. And let's see here. I feel strange that even a couple days ago, I looked at references, and back at Sculpt, I didn't see a difference. And the result was abysmal. Started working today, and seems like I now see more. Sorry for possible TLDR. Yeah, essentially what happens when you're sculpting and working on a lot of stuff is over time you kind of get used to what you're seeing, and taking a little bit of a break from that thing for even a few minutes and then coming back can really open up your eyes to see, you know, where have I been screwing up, essentially. But yes, that's the case on many things. You'll have to let me know if you modeled the face here. I don't know if these are the same here, but I'm not sure what happened. You got a lot of really cool stuff going on here, a lot of really clean shapes. Like looking at the ears and everything, I think there's a lot of good stuff going on here. It just seems like when you started to merge some of this stuff together, you lost a lot of the appeal that you built into this. And I think once you started getting into those secondary shapes, you started to lose a lot of this. I'm guessing you made that since it's in here. Let me hide the rest of that junk. And it's not an easy thing to do either, to go, you know, from those. It's not an easy thing, one, to build, you know, a clean mannequin or base mesh or anything like that, but then to push that to the next level once you start getting in those secondary forms and everything in the face, and start, you know, cleaning up some stuff around these shapes without, you know, losing too much. It's not an easy thing to do. Alright, let's see what else we got here. We got Tank Boy, Rockstar, and Jonathan Snow. I think most of my notes on Jon Snow are probably going to be exactly the same as what I was just looking at there. Let's see. And you got a White Walker skull here. That's pretty fun. Let's see. Alright. So yeah, I think most of my notes here are probably going to be, you know, almost identical. Same notes on the hands. There's quite a bit of work that could be done there. Looks like this is maybe the same base head that you made. It looks very similar. I won't comment on the squashedness of the forehead since, you know, you just got the hair up there. I would say that, you know, when you are transitioning those areas though, make sure that you're keeping an eye out for, does this have any subdivs? It does not. Just keep an eye out for areas like this where the forehead is, you know, coming up and then it's got like this awkward bulge here, and that's because how you squashed it in to hide it where the hair is connecting there. It just feels really awkward, so I would make sure that you take care of those areas. Also, so, you know, it's really, you know, not too much work that you have to do to clean that up, right? That took 2 seconds. I won't give too many more notes here because I think it's all pretty much the same. You do have the eyes defined a little bit more, but lower lid is way too big. You definitely want the upper lid out further than the lower lid. It tends to make eyes look like they're deformed and looking up. It doesn't look super appealing. It doesn't look really that great. So I would definitely do that. Other than that, you know, pretty much same notes as the last guy. I think you got some cool stuff in here though. Let's see what else we got. Our rock star. This is funny. I like this one. Very nice. Alright. So let's take a basic look here. Oh, you know what, really quick? In terms of printability, the only thing in terms of printability for this, I would say, is the sword, the sheath, and the cape. Just be careful about how thin those are getting, and maybe figure out, what's your minimum thickness that you can print with on whatever printer you're going to be using, and try to figure some of that stuff out. On the texture up here, there's just some areas that I would probably go through and draft back to make sure that these areas aren't getting too thin in the area where they're transitioning. Other than that, though, I think this shouldn't have too much trouble with printing. Rockstar Boy, I think he'll print just fine. Molding, everything should be totally cool. The only thing maybe is the gap in the mouth is maybe a little bit too deep if you were to mold it, but I don't know if you're doing any molding. I would say that, the shape of the eyelids actually works with this character since he's a little bit goofy and kind of like an ugly starfishy dude, and he's just kind of silly. So I don't know if I would really change too much on the eyelid shape that you've made. You can maybe play with that to get a little bit closer on some of the notes that I had given before. And really, I don't know. I don't think there's too much I would change here, other than maybe defining some of these areas where these fingers are blending in a little bit. Feels like you maybe merged these together a little bit too early, and you can see that we're starting to get some of those ZBrush transitions, those areas where ZBrush, you've combined something and now it's smoothing out the difference between those two planar changes. So you might want to go back through and redefine some of these areas and figure out how you can, get this back to a place where it's feeling like these fingers aren't, flowing up and connected into each other. That's Starboy. That's Patrick. Yeah, this guy as well. And I think the notes here are probably going to be exactly the same as what we were looking at on the other characters as well. Some of these folds are feeling pretty good, a lot better than your Punisher. I would say for stuff like this, if you're going to do this, either don't do it at all, or, like really like come through here and, define some of these shapes. Another thing that I'm noticing that I'll just mention in general about sculpting folds or any kind of edge like this, there's a kind of fundamental, it's called, that you might want to keep in mind. It's called edge quality. It's just this basic idea that as you start to create some kind of hard edge or, transitional form, you don't want to have that edge be exactly the same all the way through a curve. So you don't want, you don't just want point A to point B and it's all the same. Instead, you want that edge that, comes all the way up, and maybe it starts to soften and fade out as it gets a little bit closer there. Same here, you got this tight area, right? And it's maybe a little bit tighter in here, but as it transitions out, you can maybe fade that out a little bit. And it's just going to start making your folds look a little bit more natural, start to get them to feel a little bit more like they're interacting with everything else you got here a little bit better. You got some of that going on here, I think, just kind of pushing that to the next level, getting some more resolution in there maybe, and working those folds. Other than that, maybe some thickness issues you might experience with printing some of this stuff. Looks a little bit thin in here in the gun. Maybe some of that's a little bit too thin. This is kind of weird back here. I'm not exactly sure what's happening with this and how it's kind of flowing into here. I don't want to see any areas where I question what's happening in the model. So if there's supposed to be like a hole here in the cloth, I would want to see that maybe defined quite a bit more through here. So, whatever you need to do to make that feel like this is interacting more so with what's supposed to be going on there, just so it makes more sense. Same here, this looks like it's just kind of flowing and disappearing into the form, just making sure that all these shapes make sense. Same notes on the hands that I've given already. Same notes on the arms and legs and all that stuff about really making this stuff feel like it's, you know, well defined instead of just kind of rounded and a lazier shape. So if you have like this big padded, that's gonna crash. If you have this big padded shirt, just kind of pulling out around the elbow a little bit, defining that plane change, and then going from there. I think that's all I'll say though, because I do like some of the stuff you got going on here, and most of the face is hidden with all this stuff, so I don't think it'll matter too much. Good crash. I saw that one coming. I called it. All right. So that's quite a bit that we've looked at already. But we have time for more. Oh, what's going on here? But we can look at a few more things. I cut my finger. If you guys want to get some of your stuff on here for the critique, all you have to do is email it to me. Type in !critique in the chat. You'll get the instructions. I don't know why this keeps popping up. Well, let's see. I don't know if this saved or not. Let's find out if we can load all that back in. While that's loading, I'll very quickly shout out my Gumroad. There's a link down below, gumroad.com/Follygon. If you guys, Gumroad recently updated their website, so everything looks different now. I'm not a fan. But if you guys are interested, I have some tutorials on here. I have some base meshes, brushes, materials, all sorts of good stuff. Very competitively priced. I would appreciate it if you checked it out. And I have another course that I'm working on right now. It's actually a live class that I've been working on for a little bit. I'll have more information on that at the start of the new year, but I'm really excited about it, and I know a few of you are excited about that as well that have heard me talk about that before. Yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'll have live elements. It'll be a project-based class where we go through the entire process of sculpting a character from scratch all the way through the entire process, and have some live critique sessions in there, some feedback, all sorts of good stuff. But yes, I think that's really everything here. So if you guys have any specific questions about what we've looked at so far and how I might do something differently, or how I might do anything else, or any other questions, and now would be the time to shout it out. If you have a question about just maybe just why in general. I love this guy. This guy's a lot of fun. The rock star. It's really funny. Other than that, though, we can kind of just jump around here. Maybe jump back on Francisco's head for a little bit and talk about some more changes that we can make through here. And I also have my character that I've been working on, Android 17, and maybe we can work on him as well. So we have a few things that we can jump around on, and I will let you guys decide what you would like to see next. Or maybe we could just make something new and maybe talk about some of the processes for that. Man, I'm about to go grab a Band-Aid. I don't know what I cut myself on. Typing too fast. Too many hotkeys. All right, let's see here. So this is Francisco's model from earlier. If you guys didn't get a chance to see this, Francisco did send in a reference for this, which I had imported, but we crashed. Let's see. Where'd that go? I did ask one Pixelogic streamer, do 3D professionals work for money? That's kind of a silly question. He got a bit offended. The one viewer made a nice comment and said 3D pros work for polys. Yeah. The word professional literally means you get paid for what you do. So that probably answers your question. All right. Here's Francisco's reference. I have seen this reference before online. Francisco, another thing that I'm kind of noticing here as well is the line of the jaw is going the wrong direction. It's going up and forward, whereas it needs to be going up and back, or at least straight. So the reason why it's important to work on your neck and ears and everything else all at the same time is because all of these shapes actually help to define some of the shapes in the head as well. So all that stuff is very important. It's very important that you work on this stuff kind of all together. What's going on here? So a quick little remesh on your ear. This ear is, definitely, obviously very simple, but it's much more, close to the shape that we would like to be seeing as opposed to the ear on the Punisher character that we were seeing. So, figuring out the angle here from the silhouette and all that, I think you've done a good job, even though this is something just really simple and kind of blocked out really quick. Why is that freaking out? Yes, that is one of the dead giveaways. Alright, so I've remeshed this down really low poly, and I've done that because, even at this stage, I just don't care about a lot of these forms in here. The main stuff that I'm worried about are just these big silhouetted shapes and making sure that we're defining those properly. And I think that we've done a good job of bringing this a lot closer to what we would want to see here, but there's still quite a bit of work that we can do to make this even closer. Another thing that I mentioned earlier was that you can take this and line it up with your image. So if you want to scale this up and move this here, let's say, let's turn our opacity way down. The thing that you can do is, here, we'll grab our movie timeline show, and I will line this up here with our head as best as I can. And there's a little bit of perspective going on in these images, so you're not going to be able to match things perfectly. So what I'm going to do instead, perspective is really going to really mess with this, just because we're not going to be able to match that perspective perfectly. So the main thing that I'm going to, I think, do is line up probably around here. It doesn't look like he actually has perspective on for that image, which is a little disconcerting. So I'll probably just line up with one side of the head, like over there on the left side. We want to get some really good stuff going on here. It looks like we could pull down the nose a little bit. It looks like the width on the nose is probably a little bit wider. In terms of the jawline, let's see, probably square that out a bit. And these are all changes that I've kind of already made here just by eye, so I don't think it's really all that, super far off. Another way you can do this, whoops, we'll just drop a point there so you can realign that left edge back up, and then come over here and hope beyond hope that these images are at the correct scale between the two. It looks like they might have some slight differences in size and proportions, but we can just kind of infill some of that stuff, maybe do some masking tricks here. And remember, like I said, this isn't something that we particularly want to follow pixel for pixel probably, just because proportionally there's probably a lot of stuff here that's different because of perspective. It looks like they're using a really flat perspective or no perspective at all, which is why I have perspective off right now. It's kind of hard for me to tell though, and without knowing that information, you know, there's not too much we can do unless we're just kind of lining stuff up like what I'm doing right now. And then, you know, you got your other point there. You can transition between the two of those. This image isn't really going to, you know, line up perfectly. Maybe we can find an angle where that feels like it's a little close here. Maybe drop that one in the middle and start messing with the shapes there. But that is another awesome thing that you can do. So maybe we'll grab our ears, get these a little bit closer, do some rotation. We'll grab our jaw here, and it looks like there's a little bit more of a pull out in that reference. And this isn't, you know, incredibly accurate to a human head. I would also mention that. If you're going for more realism, you can do that. This is more of just, you know, a plainer head that somebody built. It's definitely very, very appealing, but there are some inaccuracies in it. In particular, I think the length of the jaw here, how far back that's going, is a little absurd, but you know, if you want to sculpt this block out and you're trying to go as accurately as you can, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter how accurate it is, just that you're kind of following the shapes that you see. Do some stuff to tighten up that jaw a little bit. Play with a lot of these shapes here. I found out that pure ref works best for you. The spotlight is a bit too intimidating sometimes. I just like having it all here in ZBrush for the spotlight tool. I also enjoy being able to sample my images, color, and different values for poly painting and stuff like that. So that's very nice as well. And just having a hotkey and ability to, you know, do opacity and all that, and move it around here in the ZBrush window is very nice. Oh. Alright, let's keep going on this guy for a little bit longer, and then maybe we can take a look at something else. Let's see, I think we're way over here, right? If we want to match up some of how this is transitioning down here, can play with that. There's obviously some stuff here in the chest that we would want to do as well to really kind of pull out this form. But that's a little bit harder from that view. So just to get some more volume down in there, start playing with that. There's a lot that needs to change here though. But I think with a little bit of TLC, you can get headed in the right direction pretty quick. Definitely some weirdness going on with the shape of the eyelid here. I would try to not get too much of a sweep back on that inner corner. So probably just try to even this out a little bit. I think the scale of the eyes needed to change anyway, if I remember right. The long Z remesh for 1K. Maybe not the scale, but just positionally. It looks like we need to move in a bit here. Or you know what? No, we're lining up with the left side. All right. You know what? We're probably not super far off. But in terms of some of the shapes, you can maybe go through and probably do quite a bit of defining around here in the eyes. I would just make sure that, you know, you're getting a nice solid area around here first. And I could spend all day, I could spend all week on this if I wanted to. I like doing little planar blockouts, stuff like that. Oh, okay. I was wondering what was wrong with my move brush. I'm getting like that little fall off edge there really tight. Doesn't look very good. Alright. And then also, you know, make sure that you're turning on perspective from time to time, really checking out those proportions from every angle. Not getting too caught up in, you know, just working on your orthographics. But those orthographics are going to be very important for you. I really think it's where things kind of start to fall apart on your original. Let's see here. And just to kind of flip between those two really quick. So this is kind of where we started. Some of the main things just in the silhouette that need to change: the jaw, the head needed to be pulled in and pulled back a little bit. Jaw needed to come out. There's definitely a lot of other shapes here that we cleaned up and got a little bit closer to the direction of what we're seeing in the reference here, just to kind of square off some of this stuff. But yeah, I think you got a good start here, Francisco. And I would love to see it once you're finished, once you get this a little bit further. The last 2 days without your stream went so slow, and I even worked on Saturday. The last few days for me have gone by very slow as well. Do you work as a freelance artist or full-time studio artist? And which one of them do you like more? I've worked as both. I am a full-time freelance right now. Which one do I prefer more? There are different reasons why I prefer each, I would say. It's definitely a lot easier to just work in a studio in terms of, you know, amount. Depending on where you work, you definitely will work a lot of hours in studio. But, you know, one of the common things that you hear people say about entrepreneurship or freelancing is that you work twice as many hours to work for yourself as opposed to being able to work, you know, 40 hours a week for somebody else. But that is the benefit, you know, right? You get to work for yourself. Once you get to a point, maybe you can be a little bit more picky with the projects that you choose, but yeah. Next project I'll buy from you will be the brush pack. Oh, cool. Works so nice, in particular, the Dam on steroid. Love it. Yeah, I'm not sure if you're talking about the sharp soft edge brush or my version of the Dam standard or what, but yeah, I like my brushes a lot. That's why I use them. Let's see. I don't think I missed anything else in chat. Just yell at me if I did miss something. But yes, I think that's going to be good for now for looking at the models that you guys have sent me, unless you have another one, or if somebody joining us has anything that they'd like to get critiqued, you guys can send it my way on my email address, and we can go from there. But I think I'm going to get back to working on Android 17 here for a little bit. And just to make this file a little bit lighter, I'm going to clean up and delete some of these models. And if you guys have a question about a specific one, I will load it back in. Alright, I think that's everything. Alright, so a lot of what I did during our last stream on this guy was a few proportional changes. I think the very last thing I did was working on this guy's hand, making this a little bit thicker. Get that a little bit closer to what I was seeing in our reference, which I will load in now. Bam. So this is an illustration by GopGap. This one over here, Sculpt by me, of course. But we've been working on this for a while, trying to get this up to the next level. We've been doing a lot of stuff in the hair. Oh boy, the hair has been a nightmare. Nightmare hair, for sure. It's been a lot of work, but we're starting to define a lot of the shapes in here a lot better, and actually getting to a point where we're starting to get things to make sense compared to the silhouette that we're seeing here, which I was originally saying was impossible to achieve at first for this sharp point, but I think I have found a way to actually get that to work out. Other than that, we started to do some secondary forms around the shirt, just quick folds, some stuff in the jeans as well. Whoops. I don't think we did too much else down here. Maybe some stuff in the bag. But yeah, I think we're going to focus today a little bit, probably everywhere, as much as we can. But before we do that, since we're kind of transitioning from our critique session into working on this guy, I'm going to take a quick restroom break and grab some more water. So let's do our good old burb. So everybody else, get up. Get your stretch on. Oh no, it's all hidden. That's not going to work. Here. Perfect. Couldn't be any better. Alright, I'll be back in like 5 minutes, and then we can get back to working on this guy. Alright, let's get back to it. I also realized that I had a bunch of stuff here screwed up. I didn't have my music on either. I was doing some recording earlier, so I had some settings changed here in stream. So now we can jam out to our music as well while we work. Alright, let's get back on our Android 17 here. If you guys still want to get some stuff critiqued though, you still have an opportunity to do that. The instructions are in the title for how you can get that, but all you gotta do is send it my way, and we'll take a break from this guy and see what you guys got going on. Okay, so like I said, we're probably gonna jump around on a few different things. But let's take some time here. Let me open up this image. So in terms of secondary forms like folds and stuff like that, there's definitely some stuff that we got to do in the scarf. Or bandana. I keep saying scarf. Bandana. Some seams and stuff like that, which won't be incredibly difficult. I kind of want to change the way that I did this on my character. And then in terms of folds and stuff down here in the pants, there's really not too much going on. We might be playing with that later. Alright, so I'm probably going to work on the hair, scarf, hands, some of these secondary folds. Let's get in and take a look-see. So originally I had these split off so that I could create the cuff here. Feels a little bit awkward right now. I think I'm just going to delete that and then probably add the seam to this the same way I will add a seam to the shirt later on, with most likely a curved tube matte brush with a live Boolean subtraction. And just create that little seam around the edge. But I think keeping this as a single shape will make getting some of those secondary forms in here quite a bit easier. Did I just polygroup that? No, okay. And probably just a little bit too thick, I think, through here. So let's turn on local sim, get in here and do some scaling. I think maybe most of this is just horizontally there with the wrist. Getting I think a little too crazy in some points in the silhouette here. We'll rein this back in. This feels a little weird to me. I think this volume needs to occur a little bit higher up on the forearm. And then that shape transitioning there. Got a straight right now. We can maybe curve that a little bit, but I think there's just too much volume here. And probably, let's see, let's just like shift this entire forearm a little bit. Something like that. And looks like we got another critique here from Esteban. I'm not sure if Esteban is here in chat. Oh, it looks like Esteban is here. Let me see. We've been working on this model. Here, let me download this really quick. I'm not sure. Let's see. Do you say where this concept is from? All right. Here. All right. So we got another one. Let's load this in really quick. And I am just going to save this, and we'll get back to this guy's arms in a little bit. So you did provide a concept image as well, which I will import. And just drop up here really quick. Alright, so here we have a model that Esteban has been working on. Esteban says, I've been working on this model past few days trying to really match the concept. What do you think about that? If you can give me some feedback about the face, arms, and hands, what would you do to improve it? Alright, so let's grab our chat back up here. Meri Karisumasu, what's going on? Oh, and Katie is rating as well. What's going on, Katie? How are you doing? Katie has, I think, recently started streaming. I'm not sure how long Katie's been streaming now. At least a couple weeks from what I remember. But Katie's trying to get that Twitch affiliate, so you guys should definitely check out Katie. Katie, say something in the chat so people can find your name and link to you. But some nice rods. Are you making some skin for Fortnite? No. No, we are not making some skins for Fortnite. This is a character that I've been working on, Android 17. And this is our live critique day. So people can send in their models and get them critiqued live here on stream. Esteban has just sent us this, so we're going to take a look here in just a second. Did some ZBrush and Retopo. Got Twitch affiliate on Thursday. Congratulations, that's awesome. That is super cool. That's a lot of fun. I was also very excited when I got my Twitch affiliate, so I can only imagine. Make sure you go out, celebrate, do something fun. Alright. Let's take a look at Esteban's model that he has sent in here. Your models are too obscene for Twitch. Well, I know of a few people that have some obscene models as well, so you're not the only one. We don't have to tell Twitch though, you know, we can keep it on the DL. So Esteban's main concerns were matching the character to the actual concept here that he's provided. I think there are, and Esteban, please let us know who the original concept artist is. The art style looks familiar, but I don't exactly know who it is. So a few things here. Let's just kind of scale this up and try to match some stuff here. Let's match the head, I guess, at least first here with the rest of this. And I can also go and just click on our timeline here once so we can realign that. So I think you've done a pretty good job here on proportions. I think proportions are pretty good. I think there are just some things here, since maybe you're only going off of a single reference image, that kind of start to fall apart as we rotate around. I think the first thing that I noticed that really stood out to me was the shape of the chest. And as you start to rotate around, you start to lose the feeling that we're getting here. So we're getting this tapered shape up from the waist and going out. So, you know, he's thin waist, big chested. So as we have that happen, you know, I think you could maybe pull out the chest a little bit and maybe start to make this shape feel the same all the way through here. So maybe work on making that feel a little bit more in line there. Another thing that I'm looking at just anatomically that you're going to want to take care of, Esteban, is flowing from your chest, and this is not subdivided, flowing from your chest to your deltoids. If you look at the way this is connected here, the deltoids are a lot more defined. There's a lot. What is going on with my my brush here? Okay. I'm not sure why the lazy mouse is freaking out. There might be some scale issues here, probably. Yeah. Okay. So you've imported this, I'm guessing, from like Maya or something else. I can tell just because of how large this is in scale. So if you're working on this in ZBrush, which I kind of doubt, but you're gonna have a lot of issues working on this in ZBrush just because of the scale of this. I think this definitely came from Maya because the scale is set to 100. So, you know, this thing is probably pretty big here. I'm just gonna mess with that scale. So here, let's get back here on the actual form. So getting this transition from the deltoids right to the chest, making this all feel interconnected. Maybe look at some reference anatomically if you don't really understand the shape that's happening here. I think that'll help you out. And then I'm just gonna hide our arms here so that I can see what's going on here with the chest. As this shape starts to roll around here, you start to lose a lot of that volume, and you can even see this from the front a little bit. So make sure that, you know, you're maybe looking at some other stylized models for some similar stuff and figuring out how you can get some of that that volume in there all the way through. Of course, there's going to be some work that you have to do to make this all feel more at home through here. But essentially, as we're rotating around, we want that that main kind of tapered feeling here to carry through as we, you know, look at the profile and the backside and everything else as well. So that would be my first note. You got, let's see, in the face, I think there's some stuff here that you could do to really make this feel a little bit sharper. And right now, if we look at this really extreme view, this feels really, really bad in terms of how this is kind of pulled out here. So make sure you're looking at your models from your really extreme views, top down, bottom up. You know, if we're looking at where this guy's jawline would actually be occurring, you have his jawline flowing down and up through there. That feels really weird to me. So I would probably at least first start by, you know, smoothing this out, pulling out the area around his jaw, and probably just, you know what, I'm just gonna shift his jawline completely and start defining where that would be a little bit better. And then this jawline, it seems like we get this like kind of sharper transition through that area. I'm just looking at this, it's really small, so it's a little hard for me to tell. Maybe square off the chin a little bit and really work on making this feel not so tucked in there. I've never really seen a character like that before that looked super appealing, so I would try to maybe try to get a little bit closer to what I'm doing here. He celebrated. Next goal is 200 followers. Awesome. Anyway, need food. We'll go grab some food. I actually don't even know what my follower count is on Twitch. I should, I guess, probably know what that is, but I don't super pay attention. Tell Katie to go eat food. Yes, Katie, please go eat food. She's been starving herself all day to work on things. Tisk tisk, Katie. Don't do that. That's not good. Look, food is like the most important thing. Gotta get them yummy foods. Let's turn off dynamic here. Alright, so Esteban, that's a few of the things that I would focus on in the face. It's hard to tell with the eyes. I would say maybe just rotate those out a bit. I would avoid baking in too much expression here with the neutral. Your face right now is just kind of doing this. It's kind of like projecting out, scaling out. So any of these areas where we can start to get rid of that, it's going to be, I think, a good idea. But you do got some good round shapes happening in your face that I like. It's just a matter of making them feel a little bit closer to what we're seeing here. And I know it's tough when you only have a singular view for your character, but I'll do some of this, probably fill in some of the form around here. I'm really not sure what's going on with my clay tubes brush on this model. It's more so just because I think the scale issues here. ZBrush works really well at its, typical scale of 2 units cubed. That's where it likes things to be. And if you get really big or really small, it starts to kind of freak out a little bit. Other than that, I think you got some good stuff going on here with some of these shapes. I would say, let's see, what do you got going on here? I would say some of these I would simplify a little bit. Maybe just use kind of these singular shapes that you've already built for the hair. Make sure that your silhouettes on these shapes are, reading cleanly. Man, what is going on with some of my brushes are being a little wonky, but just making sure that those silhouettes are looking good from every angle. You have a little bit of some extra kind of bumpiness in there that I would try to get rid of. But other than that, I think some of these are just, like I said, a little bit too complex. So breaking those up, making those maybe a little bit more simplified. Maybe just like 1 or 2 points every once in a while instead of all these clusters of 3. Maybe it looks like you reuse the same one a few times. Maybe try to avoid that. These over here feel really out of place. So definitely, work on simplifying those as well. Let's see. I think that's probably all I'll say about the face. The only other thing that I really notice is maybe it's a little bit too thick here, and that's probably more so from my changes and just that kind of projecting forward. So just to recap so you can see exactly how drastic that change that I made was. Looking at that and just seeing how this angle, you never want to see that. Like I said, I've never really seen that look super great on a character before. So, just kind of pulling that all back in and getting that a little bit more rounded off. You can have a little bit of tuck on the corners of the jaw. It's actually pretty common in this style of characters, kind of like that Disney appeal. I'll see that a lot, but just make sure you're not overdoing it too much. Other than that, you said face, hands, and what else did you say? Face, arms, and hands. All right. Let's take a look here. So that would be my notes. I think I kind of already talked about the deltoids a little bit. If you're looking at this transitional shape, make sure that it doesn't feel so just like stuck on there, like right now. Try to really integrate that deltoid and transition into the pectoralis major muscles through here and flowing down the arm. I think there's some volume that you could really use coming down through here, figure out your bicep a little bit more. And really, I think it's just a matter of, like, here. So you got, like, your deltoid, right? I'll just sketch that in really quick, sure. And then down here, I would just maybe get a little bit more volume for the bicep. The forearm's looking a little bit thin compared to what I'm seeing in that concept as well. So maybe taper that a little bit more nicely. Get a little bit more convex out here, a little bit more straight. Coming down into the hand. I don't know, I think you got some nice stuff going on here. Positionally, this is maybe how that's connecting. A little bit weird. It feels really like offset. Try to maybe center that a little bit more. And I think your wrist just tapers a little bit too much. I would maybe say you want this about 1.5 times more thick. So go through there, take a look at that. Maybe even play around with, you know, some move back face masking, hope that ZBrush doesn't crash. Just to get that feeling a lot closer to that thickness. And if you're having trouble figuring out some of those shapes, you know, what you can do is just solo mode some of this stuff, cut up your image and just realign some of those parts and pieces. Zoom in really far on them. I think you have maybe a little bit of the same thing going down here. If we're looking at the silhouette here, see how much more this is curving? We're getting more of, oh, and these are pants with a seam line down the middle of them, so I'll try not to break them too much, but no promises. So we're definitely getting more of a curve on this side, more of a C curve and more of an S curve here on the inner side. So we'll probably work on doing that a little bit more. So S, right? And then outside C curve. So we're seeing a lot more of that. Make sure that that's feeling good as we wrap around there. I think you could probably push some volume back here quite a bit more than some of this. You could probably push the volume up here a little bit more as well. Whoops. From what I'm seeing there. And then once you get the knee pads in, that'll probably be a little bit easier to reference shape. Let's see. Obviously there's like this thing is too small. Some of these things are just proportionally incorrect when I lined some of that stuff up. So take a look at that. And other than that, I would just say, you know, really pay attention to your silhouette. And as you're trying to rotate around, make sure that those shapes are still feeling the same as you do so. Other than that, you got some good stuff going on here. Hopefully that helps you out. Let's see. Just got a notification from Stan Proco. I think it's just Proco, right? Isn't that his name on YouTube? He does cool drawing videos. I think I do know him. Do you draw, Mamayan? I do not. I do not draw very often, no. I spend a lot of my time sculpting. I spend all of my time sculpting, I should say. Alright, let's realign this. And again, if you guys got anything else you want to send in, we have some more time here, so get those in now. ! critique in chat, and we can take a look. We were just taking a look at, I believe, who was it? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name. Esteban. Esteban's little stylized Disney character there, which I enjoyed a lot. He was a lot of fun. But in terms of getting that appeal and making sure those shapes are feeling good all the way around, I think you got just a little bit more work to do there. Alright, let's take a look at some of the stuff that I was trying to correct in here really quick. More so just in the sleeve, kind of coming down for the shape of the arm. Alright. Let's try to retain some of that volume a little bit coming off the joint there. And try to taper this a little bit earlier. Not quite that much though. Yeah, let's see. Cool. I also need to move my hand and realign some of this stuff a little bit. But other than that, I'm starting to like that shape a little bit more. Maybe head into transpose master really quick. Let's annoyingly difficult to work on some of this stuff. I got too much stuff on screen. Just need to be able to see for a moment. Grab my reference on my other screen. Let's see. Oh my god, my brushes keep freaking out. Let's see, I think just working on this transition here a little bit more, trying to really make this feel like what I'm seeing in the concept. It's just not quite there. While ignoring the transition of the hand. Okay. I think, here, let me go into Transpose Master. Oh, this is gonna be a little weird. I think my arm is a little bit too long. I just want to check some proportional stuff after I swing this arm down a little bit. Whoops, come on back. Alright, so from about here, rotate down. Wrist is hitting at the crotch, wrist is hitting a little bit below the crotch, so I think maybe we're actually fine. But I do want to change, go away. Change the position of these hands. So the reason I kept these a little bit more kind of A-posy was because the crease for the armpit there is super annoying to deal with, and I didn't want it to merge together earlier. I shouldn't be messing with the geometry of the shirt too much moving forward, so I'm just doing a little bit of movement here to get that a little closer to what I would expect for the finished version. And I think this sleeve / arm needs to thicken up quite a bit. A little bit easier to tell once I get it closer to the leg, just seeing how much closer this width is versus this width versus what I got going on here. It's more so just coming down the forearm. What did we have a vertex mismatch on? I think my head has an ear hidden, which is what that error was. Yeah, that's fine. That's not a big deal. Let's flip that hand over to the other side. Need to be working on those fingers a little bit more, but all in good time. All right, give me this wrist. Alright, so as we come down here, let's just grab our move, back face mask. Should be fine. You know what? Let me try something really quick. Just try a quick little inflate here. Carry this line down a little bit further. Still don't know what's going on with my brush. My focal shift is being really weird. It's a little bit better, but I messed with my clay tubes brush earlier and now it's all messed up. I don't know why. I have it pretty much on my defaults now. Thought maybe it was something with my lazy mouse down here. Lazy step. I don't know. It's not too bad now. Alright, so just kind of carrying that volume all the way down here. And then I think once we get to sculpting in some of those secondary folds, I think this will feel quite a bit closer to a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing. Just making sure that these volumes are reading as we rotate around in 3D space. Making sure it feels like the same shape from additional angles. By additional angles, I mean all the angles. And we will do folds on these sleeves separately, just because they're in a different position. So we'll do them asymmetrically. And then we will do a seam after we do the folds. Much like what I did down here with the pants. The topology of these arms is very strange. It's not very good quads. It's kind of just weird. Alright, so that's a little bit on the sleeves just to kind of shape those up and get them a little bit closer to what we're gonna want once we get into posing. I'll also do the seams asymmetrically. Let's see here. Up in our scarf, we could definitely start using some secondary forms and a little bit of symmetry break. Our hair is going to be a lot of work, so let's focus in on our scarf for a little bit. I'm just going to turn off symmetry. Let's grab a little bit of an inflate brush here. and get sculpting. I'm just going to start with my Move AccuCurve brush and find a few points that I want to, break up the shape a little bit more. Kind of got these like sharper transitional areas in a few different spots. And play around with the inflate brush a little bit, I guess. I don't typically like using the inflate brush too much, but I think this will work pretty well here. A lot of the time I'll just use my clay tubes, probably some pinch, and I'm probably going to use a few of those brushes as well. Let's just make sure we're getting some of these asymmetrical forms, kind of like what I did in the shirt, if you guys were around for that. Kind of the same basic idea here. A lot of these are really strong, but with some blending, end up getting that to a little bit of a nicer level so they don't feel kind of stuck on there, which is one of the problems that I was seeing with one of the earlier models that we were looking at in the pants of the Punisher character that we were looking at before. I think some of those folds felt just a little awkward, a little bit stuck on. So I think maybe some of this might be a little bit helpful to watch for people that do struggle with folds. But again, each material is also going to be different. You're not going to sculpt folds the exact same for a leather jacket as you would for a pair of jeans and a handkerchief or bandana. And let's see, let's grab our pinch brush a little bit here. We've been talking about edge quality a little bit earlier today, or we were talking about it. Here's a great example of this. We have this edge kind of flowing up and coming back here. I'm just kind of fading that out and making sure that we're, not having that edge be the exact same thickness, the exact same strength all the way through the entire shape. Definitely makes your shapes more interesting. We'll do the same thing down here, and I'm kind of keeping this in mind with all of the folds and different shapes that I'm creating. Let's try getting some more just volume down here. And for those that are just joining us, today I don't normally stream on Sundays, but I've been gone taking care of some family stuff for the past few days, so I figured we might as well get our critique in this weekend. If you're just joining us though and you would like to get something critiqued, we probably won't handle any more today because I don't think we really have too much time here left. But if you do want something critiqued, next Saturday we'll be doing the exact same thing. So you can type in !critique in the chat for the instructions on where to send that. And yeah, send your stuff over and we'll take a look at it next Saturday. Do you have any secret techniques you use to get that train going? I don't know what you mean by get that train going. Like when you know you need to work but can't. Ugh! When you know you need to work but can't. I don't know what that means. I really don't. When I know I need to work, I work. You just gotta do it. There's no secret about it. I don't know. I like sculpting, so it's not like, you know, for me, ZBrush, it's kind of like my favorite video game, right? I enjoy doing it, so if you enjoy doing something, I don't think you'll have any trouble, you know, getting up, or, you know, when you feel like you don't really want to do something, but you need to, right? You just gotta do it. And if you're in those earlier stages and you're really struggling to make things that you like, everybody started at 0. I started at 0. Everybody else did as well. You gotta go through, you gotta pay your dues, right? You gotta go through all the hard stuff before you can do some of the more fun stuff. It's just how it is. You're not gonna start running today and then be in the Olympics next year, right? It's exactly the same. Everything's the same. There's no secret techniques. There's no secret diet plan that's gonna work for you. Exercise, eat healthy, practice and study. Exactly the same. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really struggle. I'm really bad at answering questions about motivation. I'm just I feel like I'm a very kind of self-motivated person. You kind of have to be if you want to do what I'm doing. It's definitely a good quality to have. So I don't know, man. I just do it. Maybe think about all the other people in the world that are doing the exact same thing that you are. You're not the only one, right? So don't feel so left out. All those other people, they're gonna pass you up if you don't work hard. Get that training in now. Think of how good you'll be in 1 or 2 years if you sculpt every day now and do all that hard work. You're gonna be better than me. I'm not even that good. Yeah, I mean, right? Everybody started in the exact same place. I don't like to, you know, I'm not the type of guy that is gonna, what's like a new, what's it called? Slim Fast. I'm not Slim Fast, right? I'm not gonna be like, you know, buy my product and then you'll be an amazing sculptor. There's no product or course or anything that's gonna do that for you. It's just gonna get you closer to that. It's just gonna get you closer to that end goal. And only you know, can really push yourself to that next stage. You know, just because you took a class doesn't mean you and little Timmy in the corner take the same class and little Timmy does twice as much work. Well, little Timmy's probably gonna progress a little bit faster than you are. It's just how it goes. But those brushes, though, my brushes are they're pretty close, I would say, to the standard brushes that I use. There's really nothing. I could use the standard brushes and be just as good. Like, my brushes aren't anything special. It's about how you use these brushes. There's no special brush that's going to, you know, make your sculpts look amazing. I really use only like a few brushes. I could use the default everything in ZBrush. Like, I don't have to use my custom stuff. The reason I use my custom stuff is just because it makes working a little bit faster for me. I got all my hotkeys, you know, my custom UI, my brushes, so I don't have to sit here and set up all my brush modifiers every time I restart ZBrush. That would be really annoying, you know? Just all those little things add up in time. And you'll figure out what those things are for you as well after sculpting for a while. But at least in the beginning, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with the defaults. I sell on my Gumroad. I don't even know where it is. It's one of these links here. Whoops. This. I sell brushes and materials and base meshes and all sorts of stuff on my Gumroad. But really, you know, if you want them, I encourage you. Yeah, sure, go grab them if you want them. But I also really encourage people to make their own stuff. I think, you know, after you sculpt for a while, you'll really figure out what you need and what works for you. And when I say sculpt for a while, I mean like after, you know, a year or a few years of sculpting a lot, you'll start to really, you know, along that time, probably start making some brushes for yourself. You know, in your first year, you might make a couple that really work out for you. And then after another year, you start to realize, you know, this brush doesn't really do exactly what I need. I need a different brush that does this task a little bit faster, a little bit more efficiently. You'll find stuff over time. It takes a long time. It really does. Oh, the slim fast analogy? Yeah. Buy my brushes and you will lose 100 pounds and sculpt like a master sculptor. Like a Follygon. I'm no master sculptor. Don't get the wrong idea. Okay. Trying to like really define that crease in there. Alright, so we're starting to get a lot of these, you know, new secondary forms kind of really break up the symmetry here. It looks like maybe there's the second layer of that underneath. So like a really quick way to do something like that. Goodbye. Goodbye, rest of scarf. I don't need you. No reason to make anything that's never going to be seen or doesn't really need to exist. We just need the illusion of it existing. Here. A little bit more here on some of this stuff in the scarf. I think we'll be in a good place. Really just trying to break up the symmetry even more here if I can. So, you know, just a few tweaks, making it a little bit thicker on one side than the other. Playing around with some of the different shapes here, breaking it away from the, you know, symmetry plane so it's not right down the middle, which, you know, feels pretty awkward. I'm not worried about the hair. We'll work with that interaction later. Alright, so I've done, you know, these tight creases through here that we can probably soften up a little bit. I think this edge might just be a little bit too fat. I don't know. Here. This feels a little bit too thick to me, so I'm going to take some time to thin this out. Get this a little bit more flush with the shirt, and we'll go from there. Whiskey is nice. Our region just started making their own brand a couple of years ago. With US exchange rate $4 for a normal bottle. Wow. That's either really crappy whiskey or you guys are doing something right. I like me some bourbon. I live in the bourbon state, so you have to like bourbon if you live here. There's like federal bourbon laws that you cannot name your product bourbon unless it follows these like very strict rules. It's pretty crazy. It's very nice and you don't even drink. Yeah, I think bourbon is pretty expensive outside the US. Like I said, I live right here in Kentucky, just south of Cincinnati. So it's, you know, right in bourbon country, a little bit more south, and you're on the Bourbon Trail. Alright, starting to thin that out a little bit more. It's getting there. The way this shape wraps up here doesn't feel super great. So it'll take some time to really clean this up. Really make that feel good. Kind of loosen how tight I had this edge getting here in some of these areas. Up through here as well. Awesome. Let's feeling quite a bit better to me. Probably some more work to soften some of these forms here. I think they're still just a little bit too sharp in a lot of these areas. I don't think that'll be too hard at all though. Imported stuff costs well above 30 or 40. I mean, bourbon's still a pretty expensive drink. You know, for a really nice bottle, you could be paying that much here as well, if not more. Like a bottle, a pretty small bottle of Woodford Reserve costs like about 30 or 40 bucks. I think actually it might cost like 50 or 60, depending on which one you get. But that's probably my favorite bourbon. I don't drink bourbon too often. I don't really drink too often either. Just with friends. When we, you know, holidays and such. But I'm definitely not the, myself and my friends are not the type of people that are like, let's go out to the bars tonight and spend 5 times as much on a drink as we could just, you know, hanging out at somebody's place. Me and my friends are like, why? I don't even know, why go to a bar? I feel like bars are for, I don't want to say like lonely people, but people that are trying to like maybe, you know, mingle and meet other people. Me and my friends were just like, no, we're good. We're like good. We got a good number right now. We're solid. You know, we don't need to go out and meet new people. We're good. You know, if we added another person to the friend group, then you know that'd be an odd number, and then we couldn't play this specific board game. It's like, not really, but it might as well be like that. You go with your wife. Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah. Go out for a night, go out, do some dinner, go hang out at a bar, do some people watching, and drink some beer, yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I love me some good beer. When I was in college, me and my buddies used to every weekend go to a place called Party Source, and it's just a huge, it's called the Party Source, and it's just a huge alcohol store. And we would always go in the back into the walk-in cooler, which is like as big as a normal store. It's huge. It's like as big as a gas station, and just like this one section of this store. But you go in there, and then you can do like a make your own 6-pack, and we used to go back there and just, you know, sample new things pretty much, you know, every weekend, every other weekend. Add something new to our collection. There's a few apps out there that like track that stuff, and for people that do that. I don't do that anymore, but I enjoyed it. Getting to try a bunch of different things. My friend Austin, he got me this beer, so we did this thing where we would buy each other beer sometimes to try, and I got him like a pretty normal beer. I don't even remember what it was. I think it was like, it might have been an ale or something, but he got me this beer called Sweaty Betty, and it was the most disgusting thing I've ever drank in my entire life. It tasted like sweat. It was so disgusting. Like, there was a reason it was called the Sweaty Betty. And this drink still exists. Like, go to a liquor store and see if you guys can find Sweaty Betty and buy it. Like, it is terrible. Buy it because it's terrible. You have to try it if you find it. If you ever see it on a shelf. Even if you don't like alcohol, this is something... This is a good life experience. Take it from me. Oh my god, it was so bad that I couldn't even drink it. And I like IPAs, so I'll drink like some really bitter stuff, but this thing was not Like, I would have rather drank gasoline than drank this beer. Like, that's how disgusting it was. Is there a problem with staying too much time on Dynamesh? No, I don't think there's, a problem with staying in Dynamesh too long. You might get to a point where it's really hard for you to control your form. You have to be kind of cognizant of what you're doing in Dynamesh and kind of incrementally going up your resolution scale. So if you're Dynameshing really low, getting your, larger forms, increase the Dynamesh ever so slightly over a little while, and I think you'll be fine. I just find it easier to control form when you have subdivision levels, like I do right now, but that doesn't mean that I don't use Dynamesh. I use Dynamesh all the time. I use them in conjunction with each other. Sounds like Juicy Lucy. Is that an actual beer as well? Juicy Lucy sounds like it could taste good, but Sweaty Betty it doesn't even sound appealing. Like, I don't understand who buys this beer and how this brand is still in business. Here. You know what? Never mind. I was gonna Google Sweaty Betty, Google image search that, but that sounds like a really bad idea. They make beer with spit? Like, that's an actual, intentionally? That can't be real. Not really spit, but they chew corn and brew from that. I don't think they chew corn with their mouth, like a human's mouth. That would take so long to do. The amount of corn, I think it's called, Nash or something like that. That would take ages. This cannot be real. I refuse to accept that this is an actual thing. Mainly on the fact that it disturbs me. They do it, look it up. I will have to look it up later. Watch, it'll end up being some beer I like. I bet they do that with Sweaty Betty. With ZRemesher, what do you do if your geometry in some places gets too low? Francisco, you can control your resolution in certain areas. I can't see your model or what you're trying to do with your resolution, so I don't know exactly what you should do for this situation, but, you can project the information back onto the ZRemeshed piece, which I've shown off many times before. If you're not familiar with projection, a quick little illustration here. Let's say you got this Dynameshed. Here's your Dynamesh, and you want to ZRemesh this and keep all the details that you have in this, right? Quote details that we have in this. So I'll duplicate that. I will ZRemesh this down as low as I possibly can. We've lost a lot of form, so what do I do if I've lost some form? I subdivide and click on project here with both of these visible, and then I'll be able to project that form back on there. So now I have the subdivisions and the Dynamesh piece, and now I can clean this up with some subdivisions and get it to a little bit of a more presentable place. Another thing that you can do is remesh with polygroups or with your ZRemesher guides brush. I've done tutorials on that in the past. Maybe you can find some better examples on my YouTube channel or just by watching me work here for a little bit. But essentially the idea is use polygroups in ZRemesher, then turn on keep groups, and then ZRemesher will try to retain the areas where you've put those polygroups. So if you want a specific edge flow or anything like that, ZRemesher will do a pretty good job of retaining that for you. Rhett and Link tasted a beer made with human saliva. That sounds really gross. I think I'll pass. The idea of, like, when you hear horror stories of people accidentally, you're at a party and you set down your drink and then you pick it up again later, but you accidentally pick up somebody's like spit cup from their chew. Like that's a thing that people do around here very commonly. And it's like full of backwash spit and tobacco. Like, it just like makes me want to puke thinking about it. What's going on, Mad Dog? And welcome to the stream. How are you doing? Let's reapply some materials. MRGB. And some orange hands, of course. Gotta get our orange hands on. Alright. Let's see. I think that is going to be a good place for us to hit pause for today. During the next stream, since most of today was taken up by doing our live critique sessions, Monday we'll be working more on probably on the hair and hands and stuff like that. And then next Saturday, if you guys want to be in on the critique, send your stuff as early as you can. The earlier you send it, the more likely it is to get on next Saturday's live critique here on the stream. Let me save this guy. I'll just do a quick save for now. Somebody once extinguished their cigarette in your brother's soda. That sounds pretty gross. Pleasantly surprised the next time he picked it up. Oh my god. Was the cigarette like in it? Did they just drop it in? Because that's disgusting. Oh my god. I will pass. This is why you never set your drink down. Not because you're worried about getting drugged, but because you're worried about someone spitting in your drink. All right. So again, tomorrow or Monday, yes, tomorrow. It's not Saturday. I normally do this on Saturday, but tomorrow we'll be streaming at noon EST. Stream every day except for Sunday and today. Tuesday, I stream on the Pixelogic ZBrush channel at 6 p.m. EST. Check out my Gumroad. There's a link down below, Gumroad/Follygon. Tutorials, courses, brushes, materials, all sorts of goodies on there that I would appreciate if you check out. I don't pay anything to advertise my stuff, so it's all the generosity of you guys checking it out and sharing my links and everything like that, which I greatly appreciate. And with that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, what little is left. I know for some of you watching, you know, it's night and you're about to go to sleep and you got Monday tomorrow. But enjoy what's left, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. And with that, hasta la vista.